Hello, welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary, Astro Mary. My name's Mary English and I'm a professional astrologer and I work in private practice in the UK, and I've been in private practice for quite a few years, more than 15, probably 20 something years. And this week we're going to talk about retrograde planets. So what the heck is retrograde? So retrograde is a fancy term for something that goes backwards. And how would a planet go retrograde? What does that mean? Now, the term retrograde means retro, to go back, and the planets obviously don't travel backwards, they only travel forwards. However, some of them slow down a bit in their orbits compared to us and other planets. So from the Earth, because we're all travelling at different speeds, so us and all the other planets, for instance Mercury whizzes around the sun a lot faster than us. In fact, it's the nearest planet to the sun, and the moon goes around the Earth. That's right, yes, and then we all moon, and so the moon goes round the Earth, and then the Earth and the moon together goes round the sun. So the thing about a retrograde planet is that it looks from Earth as if it's going backwards, and it's the same sensation that you've got two trains in a station, and both of them take off, and one of them slows down, and it looks as if it's going backwards, but it's not actually going backwards compared to you. Say you're in the faster train, and there's a train that's coming near to you, and it's on a parallel track to you, but it's going slower. It does look, from you being in the faster train, as if that train is going backwards. It's not. It's still travelling, but it looks, so from your perspective, as if it's going backwards. So that's what the ancient astrologers waffled on about when they talked about retrograde planets. Now, most people have heard of Mercury retrograde, and 3 times a year it goes retrograde, and even if you don't know anything about astrology, you'll probably know about Mercury retrograde. It's like, what do we do during a Mercury retrograde? And Donna Cunningham wrote a lovely blog post about it once. I think she called it retrograde hell or something, and they're very exaggerated, retrograde planets, especially Mercury retrograde. We're not all going to die and the world isn't going to end and we're not going to fall off the edge of the earth. But what you do need to remember during, we'll talk about Mercury retrograde first. The moon can't go retrograde, by the way. If you're looking at your birth charts, that's impossible. And the Earth doesn't go retrograde, because in astrology it is as if us looking up at the planets. And Mercury goes retrograde, as I said, I think it's about 3 times a year. So people that are born with Mercury retrograde, hello, I have that, their learning style is going to be different from other people. So whatever sign of the zodiac you are, doesn't matter. But if your Mercury, your personal Mercury, was retrograde when you were born, and I'll tell you how to identify that in a minute, if it was retrograde, then don't expect to be able to learn, understand or communicate the same way as other people. You're just going to have to invent and develop your own way of doing it. It doesn't make you less intelligent, it just makes you different. So just keep that in mind. Now, how do we know if a planet is or isn't going retrograde? And the easiest way to do it is this. So we need to find out, say for instance, we want to find out how many times is Mercury going retrograde this year, and how are we going to find out that information? So without giving yourself a headache, let's make it easy. So we're going to go to astro.com, our little friends. I've got high security on my account, so I'm just going to click in now. So get to astro.com, and in the tabs at the top it says Home, Free Horoscopes, Astro Shop, All About Astrology and Contact. So if you click on All About Astrology and scroll across to the where it says ephemeris, and the ephemeris is posh term for placements of the planets. So we're going to look at this year, 2017. So scroll across to ephemeris, EPHEMERIS, and click on ephemeris 2017. Now, astro.com is going to provide you with a PDF of the year 2017, and you're going to look at that and you're going to go, oh my god, what does it all mean? Don't worry, it's not as bad as it looks. So along the top line it says the day, the sidereal time, That's SSID dot T. You've got the sun and you've got the symbols now, so hopefully you've learned them. So you've got the symbol for the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. You've got a couple of nodes there. One of them is the moon's node, one's the true node, one the Lilith is the black thing, and the last one is Chiron. So forget about those, we're not including those in these lessons yet. So you've got scroll down, and we're going to go to this month. So I'm having July at the moment. I don't know what you're having, but I'm having July. And June, where's July gone? Here we go, July. And you've got the month, whatever has this done? Julian days? Wow, it's added some extra bits. I shall ignore that, it's doubled it up. How weird. Oh, it's got declination and latitude. God, forget about that. Did I download the wrong thing? Ephemeris 2017. No, I didn't. So in July 2017, today is the 2nd of July, so you could do the date on the left, so it's Saturday, well actually I'm Sunday, what am I saying, Sunday the 2nd, it'll say the time, sidereal time, the symbol for the sun there, and at the beginning, at the top of each column will be the symbol for the sign that that planet is in, so the sun now is in the sign of Cancer. Today the moon is in Libra. It goes into Scorpio soon. Mercury is in Cancer. Venus is in Taurus. Mars is in Cancer. Jupiter is in Libra. Saturn. Now, where it says Saturn, at the top of each column, where that R is, it says 23 degrees R23. That means when Saturn got to the sign of Sagittarius, I think it's in. Yeah, so when Saturn reached the sign of Sagittarius at 23 degrees and 23 minutes, it then boom, it went retrograde. So Saturn is at this precise moment in time retrograde. The other planet that's retrograde at the moment is Neptune, which is retrograde in the sign of Pisces, and Pluto is retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. So all you need to look for is that initial, it's capital R at the beginning of the column. It might go halfway through. Now, how do we find out when Mercury is retrograde? So let's go back to the beginning. We'll go to January just to make life easy. I don't think anything was retrograde in January. Oh yes, it was. Okay, so go back to January 2017. The first column is the sun, the second column is the moon, and the third column is Mercury. And as you'll see there, it says 3 degrees R and the R. So at that precise moment in time, Mercury was retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, because after the R on the next line down, you've got the symbol for Capricorn, 2 degrees. And it's quite funny watching the planets, when they're written down like this, go retrograde, because the numbers will go backwards. Yes, we'll do a bit of maths here. So it's going from 3 degrees to 2 degrees to 1 degree to 0 degrees of Capricorn, and then it goes back into the sign before that, 29 degrees Sagittarius, 29 degrees 18 minutes Sagittarius, 29 degrees 0, so, and then it says D direct. So when we get to the date of the 8th of January this year, Mercury started to go direct. So each retrograde issue lasts 3 weeks. So the next retrograde, so as I say, we started the year in a retrograde. What a way to start a year. And this year it's all in earth signs, and so we need to go along to the next time it went retrograde. So okay, so scroll forwards, you'll get to April 2017, and you'll see now on Monday the 10th, Mercury, which is the third column along, went retrograde in the sign of Taurus. When it got to 4 degrees Taurus, it went retrograde. And if you look down the column, you'll see it eventually worked its way back into the sign of Aries, and then you scroll on to the next month when you get to May, and it starts to go direct on the 4th of May. And that period of retrograde was approximately 3 weeks. Yes, 3 weeks. And each year Mercury goes retrograde in the same element. Doesn't that make it nice and easy? So this year it's always going to be in earth signs. So as we're in the sign of Cancer at the moment, it's not going to be hitting an earth sign until we get to Virgo. So let's go through the calendar and I can let you know when it's going to be retrograde. So here we go. Get to August. 13th of August, at least it's not a Friday, Sunday the 13th of August, oh blimey, I'll be broadcasting then, I better do it the day before, just to make sure it works. So Sunday the 13th of August, Mercury will be retrograde in the Earth sign, 'cause it's Earth signs all this year, of Virgo at 11 degrees Virgo, and it lasts until, scroll on, until we get to September, and it goes direct on the 5th of September. So when you make your birth chart, so what does it look like in a chart? So that's the ephemeris. The ephemeris gives us each planet, the signs it goes through. The degrees are going to change every day. You know, the moon is going to change sign over 2 or 3 days. But it gives us a forward planner so that we can see this year what's happening with retrograde planets. And the reason you need to pay attention to them is not to do too much during a Mercury retrograde, or at least when you build up to a Mercury retrograde, remember that you need to redo, rethink, re-edit. Just put re in the front of whatever the planet is you're talking about. So in Mercury, you need to rethink, redo, because Mercury is all about communication. In Venus, you might need to re-love someone. you might need to reignite some love for someone during Venus retrograde. Mars retrograde, Mars is about action, aggression, energy. When it goes retrograde, or if it's retrograde in your chart, then you need to remember that your energy level is going to be slightly different from other people's. And in our chart example this week, we're using the lovely chart for our Lisa, and Lisa lives in the USA, and she was born with her Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Gemini, and in her chart she's got it in the 7th house. The 7th house is about relationships. Jupiter is about belief and faith, belief, and long distance travel, further education, spirituality, that type of thing. But I always think of Jupiter as being representative of your beliefs. So in the 7th house, in her case, in your case, hello Lisa, it's to do with your attitude towards relationships. With it being Jupiter, you prefer a relationship, close personal relationship that's international in some way. You want some sort of international connection. But with it being your planet being retrograde there, you might have a slightly different attitude towards relationships. You won't want to do them in a normal manner, because anything that's retrograde is that you're just not going to do it the normal way. So let's be different here. Now, so how do you find a retrograde planet in your chart? So you hopefully know how to make your chart now. Best way to identify them is when you've made your chart up, bottom left hand corner where it says natal in blue, you'll have all your planets listed, so Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and as you look down the list, look at all the things that are written in blue, and on the far right hand side of the blue writing, you'll see a little r. So this isn't a capital R like in the ephemeris. This is the I don't know what you call a little letter. What do you call a little letter? It's not a capital, it's a non-capital, and there's a little r next to it on the far right hand of the degrees and signs and blah 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 of whatever your planets are. And don't fret if you've got more than one. Oh gosh, I think I've got about 4. You only really need to worry if you've got, because there's only 10 planets in your chart. If you've got 6, hopefully you haven't, but if you had 6 retrograde planets in your chart, then wow, you're going to be a very unique individual person. I don't know if that's possible actually to have 6. 5 I think I know about. 6 possibly. Yeah, that would be really unique. There can't be too often that amount of planets go retrograde. Anyway, if you've got more than 4 or 5 retrograde in your chart, you might need to learn a little bit about redoing things, because retrograde planets allow us the opportunity to rethink and redo. So you might find yourself a little bit more reticent about things, or having to work harder than others to get to wherever it is that you need to be. And as I say, in your in the table at the bottom of your chart, we'll have the listings for your planets. There'll be those little R's next to them, and you don't fret about them. Please don't send me emails going, oh my goodness Mary, I've got blah 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 retrograde. It really makes no odds. As I say, I've got a number of them in my chart. It just is one of those things that happens. And if you were born with an outer planet retrograde, I mean, goodness me, something like Pluto goes retrograde for months at a time. So everybody in your year at school might have, Pluto retrograde in their chart. I mean, Pluto's retrograde at the minute, as I mentioned earlier. And it's an interesting thing to find out. It's something further that you can research. And if you have Mercury retrograde, remember, you will need to learn things in a different way, in a way that only you know how to. I find a lot of people that got Mercury retrograde tend to really like self-teach, being self-taught. Hello, that's me. And they prefer not to be taught. So, teaching yourself is a great way to get around Mercury retrograde. It's a bit more tricky if you've got your sun sign in one sign and your Mercury in another sign, and it's retrograde as well. You might need some extra tuition there, because that's a pretty difficult astrological thing to have. But there's always help for people that need it. And, a natal retrograde Mercury that's not in your own sun sign, because it'd be your sign or the one either side of it. I mentioned that in the Mercury edition. Just keep in mind that you might need help from other people to make the best of your Mercury. So that's just a little discussion today about retrogrades, how to find them, and I hope you have a fab week, and we'll be talking again next week. Bye now.